What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. For those that don't know, my name is Alina Smith. I'm a producer and writer for projects like Red Velvet, ITZY, Mamamoo's Subunit, Fall Out Boy, Betty Who, many others I always forget. On this channel, I talk a lot about songwriting and production. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's get into this video. Okay guys, so I wanted to make this particular video because I swear this is the #1 most asked question in my life. I get asked this question on social media all the time and I usually reply and I say the same things to everybody. So I just figured I would do this video for anybody that's interested. And the question is, how did you become a professional songwriter and producer? Now, when I was thinking about how I'm gonna do this video, I was kind of playing with an idea of doing a little bit of a story time, and I will tell you guys the story, but what I really want to do is kind of break it down into sections where I talk about the mistakes I've made that I don't think you should make. I wanted to chat about things that I didn't know starting out that I think a lot of people should know getting into this. So that's kind of how I'm gonna go about this. And yeah, the first thing I wanted to just chat about is how I went from not being a professional at this to being a professional at this. So just a quick overview of my story. I am originally from Russia. I was born and raised there. I graduated high school there, and then I moved here to the States. I knew nobody except my husband, Brad, that I'm still married to. So I was starting from zero. You can even say I was starting from like -100 because I had a lot of extra challenges, like learning to speak English, write in English. You know, it's one thing to speak it and one to be a purveyor of culture in that culture and in that language. So that was a multi-year process. You know, not knowing anybody at all definitely was tough as well. And we'll get into like relationships and connections and networking and all of that stuff a little bit later. But yeah, that's basically where I started from. And it took me about 10 years until I started actually getting paid for songwriting and production. Now, don't be scared. I don't necessarily think it is going to take you this long. I know other people that it did not take them that long at all. That was just my story. Basically, I moved to the States. I really wanted to be a singer and a songwriter. I did not really produce back then, just kind of dabbled in it. And I lived in Las Vegas with my husband, Brad, at that time, which is really not like a music scene unless you count live performances on the Las Vegas Strip. So I did that for a little bit and then quickly realized I can't really progress as like a songwriter here. This is all just about performance. So I started going to LA, and for about 6 years, I was going back and forth from Vegas to LA, you know, just trying to make things work. I had like a couple of things, like I had one song recorded in Japan by an artist there. I got chosen to sing at the Student Olympics in China and went overseas to do that. But that's honestly like all I had to show for like 5-6 years of being in LA. So at that point, I wanted to try something different and I moved to Nashville. I was really interested in country music at that time. So for about 4 years, I was in Nashville, pretty much solely focused on writing country music. And this is where my first kind of breakthrough moment happened. I got a publishing deal in Nashville, which I have a whole video about how I got that deal, like very detailed. I will link it down below if you're interested in that. But basically, once I got my pub deal is when I started getting paid for songwriting, when I started having more like professional opportunities happen. And then from that point on, I've realized country really wasn't my #1 love in music, that I was much more interested in pop and global pop, specifically K-pop. So from that point on, my partner, Elli, who we started doing music together at around that time, together we moved to Las Vegas, and Brad, my husband, and we started the production company that I'm in now called LYRE. And together we ended up having a lot of success, a lot of different artists that we worked with here in the States, in Korea, in Japan, in Spain, all over the world. So that was kind of, moving here the second time is when it worked for me, when it didn't work the first time. So, and this is kind of like the situation I'm in now at this moment. So that's the quick overview. And now I want to get into some of the more nitty-gritty things. So now I want to talk about some things that I did not know about the music industry and being a songwriter and producer and singer when I was starting out. I did not know a lot, because when I was starting out, it was 2004 actually. So we did not have the same resources as far as what's on the internet that we have now. I'm making this video, you can watch it and you can find out certain things about the industry from it. At that time, you had to buy a book and read it, and if it was a little bit dated, you did not get the current information. So I did not know a lot, and I think the number one sort of illusion that was shattered for me was that, if you're just talented, things will happen, you will get discovered, right? And I think a lot of people these days don't think that way. A lot of people know that they have to put in the work, and I worked really, really hard, but I kind of didn't take responsibility for my own success. I just thought, as long as I'm like good and talented, somebody will like take me under their wing and develop me. And the truth is, for singers, for producers, and for songwriters, development is a really, really long process. Like, it's a multi-year process. It can be slowed down if you don't have enough time for it, if you don't have any help. It can be sped up if you have help and you're fully focusing on it. For me, I think the thing I didn't really realize was just the level you had to be at to be considered a professional, right? I always just kind of skated, I want to say, on my talent, because like I had a lot of raw talent. I could sing, I could do all these things, I could record myself, but I just did not know the level I had to be on. And I think now the level is even higher, and I will explain why. And I think it's because of how good technology has gotten, right? Because in 2005, you could make like a little crappy demo, singing into a dynamic microphone into your laptop, and if it was a good song, like somebody might be interested if you have relationships and all that stuff. Now it's not that way at all. In fact, in most cases, your demo has to sound pretty much like the record, right? There is very little difference between the demos that I finish of, let's say, K-pop songs that I've had recorded by artists and the final song. Like, sometimes things are changed, right? But there have been songs where the record sounds like exactly like the demo. It's just in Korean, but it sounds pretty much just like what we did here. So yeah, the level required of you to be a professional is high. It's really, really high. So, but for those of you guys that are starting out, I don't want you to get intimidated. I don't want you to be like, oh, well, I can never do it. You can. And what you really, really need to do, though, is invest time into your development. And you can't expect like things to happen for you overnight, like that whole dream of overnight success, making it like that Lizzie McGuire movie where somebody pulls you on stage and you're a star. Yeah, that's a lot of the times where somebody just happens to come out of nowhere and you're like, what is this artist? They made it overnight. It's very likely they've been working for like 12 years. You just didn't know about it. So I would expect like a long haul in your development. And even at, professional levels, we are still always trying to develop our talents more, to develop our knowledge, our understanding, our sense of like what's coming up, what kinds of sounds are trending. There's so much that goes into it. So yeah, you just need to really, really realize that you can't slack off and you can't be somebody just relying on others to kind of lift you and pull you along. You have to initiate it. So I wanted to chat a little bit about the mistakes I think I've made on this journey. Obviously, everybody makes mistakes. It's like not a big deal. We're all going to make them in our own unique ways. I think for me, it was that I didn't really realize how important collaboration was in our industry, because I always wrote and produced by myself. I just kind of sat in my room by myself creating, which is great. I still do that now. But the difference is I've had so much experience, so many years of experience now, that I pull from that bank of that experience. All those collaborations that I've had, they're all coming in now to help me create better. The thing is, when you're just by yourself, you're isolated, it's really hard to grow. Really, you definitely can. You know, you can listen to songs as references, try to create something similar. You can, you know, buy a tutorial course online. You can watch videos like mine. Like, you definitely can move yourself along better these days than I could have in like 2006, 7, whatever it was. But I do still think that I've learned the most from just collaborating with people. Like, for example, you know, collaborating with another producer and having him say, hey, for spreading vocals left and right, you know, there's this plugin that I have. It's called Center from Waves, and it really creates the illusion that the vocals are wider. You know, seeing somebody do that right in front of you on the song that you're working on, it just sticks a lot better than watching it in a tutorial where maybe it doesn't even relate to you. Maybe they're doing it on, I don't know, a synth pad, and you are not that kind of producer. You mostly use organic instruments. Like, it's just not going to stick, even if you get information in some other way, right? So being in collaborations with people working on the music you want to work on together, it brings out the best of people if it's the right collaboration. Another mistake I think I made early on is, and it's kind of almost hard to quantify that as a mistake, because things were really different back then, but I just really didn't know any other people my age that were coming up in the industry. Like, I barely had any peers. And I think these days it is so much easier to meet your peers. You can go on Discord into producer and songwriter groups and meet other young people that are interested in that. You know, you can hit up people on Instagram. You can find people on TikTok, even professionals. You know, a lot of songwriters and producers, we have day rates. Like, basically, like, you can pay a professional, successful producer or songwriter to work with you for a day, you know, collaborate on a song for you as an artist, for example, you know, and you can learn so much in that one day. So there's so many opportunities now that we didn't have back then. So I don't want to like knock myself for that. It was really hard to meet people. You know, you had to like go to an open mic and hope somebody cool is there. Like, it was just harder, but that definitely was a detriment to my career. I just didn't know a lot of people, you know, and my situation was that at that time I was still like kind of transitioning through immigration, which is a whole like other very difficult thing to do, but I did not have a car, for example, so I couldn't even really go to places and, like I said, like an open mic unless somebody drove me. So there was a lot of difficulties for me as far as that. So I ended up for many years, again, just sitting in my room and doing things on my own. So for you guys, I recommend the things I mentioned, like using social media, but even I feel like there's so many programs now too, by universities, by organizations like She Is the Music. I have a protege now, and I met her through She Is the Music's, I think it's called Connect Together, mentorship program where they pair up mentors with mentees, and it's a really, really cool thing. So there's just so much out there now. So I just encourage you guys to connect with other people. So as I mentioned, for a long time, I had like nothing going on, nothing happening. It was really hard, but my big first break came from getting a publishing deal. And basically, like, you can watch that video as I mentioned, but I basically pitched myself to a bunch of publishers. I was in Nashville. I walked around Nashville to all the publishing companies, which I don't know how it is now, but at that time, this is like 2013 or something, they were all on like the same street or the same 2 streets, so you could just go door to door and give people CDs, which is what I did. And it's a very unusual way to get a publishing deal. From my experience with everybody else around me, everybody's gotten it through the industry, right? And the way that works is, let's say a young writer works with some other young writers that are signed, or maybe like an older writer takes them under their wing and develops them, and that's how their publisher gets to know about them. Usually things are done in this like very industry way, like very closed off and like all about relationships, but I just didn't have any of that. So I just put myself out there. I remember at that time, I even snuck into parties in Nashville because they had like the CMA festival and they had a lot of these like country music related parties at that time. And basically, yeah, I would like sneak in if I wouldn't be invited, which I wasn't at that time, and just try to talk to anybody I could talk to. So, again, these days, I think things are simpler. You don't really have to do that anymore. But you definitely have to put yourself out there, right? Whether it's sneaking to a party like I did, which it's hard, COVID, I get it. But, these days there's so much online that you can do. Everything's online. So there are a lot of ways you can just put yourself out there. And yet again, I'm going to keep pounding you guys over the head, meet people. But anyway, back to my publishing deal. So for those that don't know what publishing deals are, the best way I can describe them is they're like record deals are for artists. I think everybody knows what a record deal is. They're the same kind of way, but for songwriters. They're basically enabling, like helping a songwriter's career. Do you have to have one of those? No, you don't. You don't have to have one of those. I don't have a publishing deal now, and I'm really happy about my situation, but that's because I already have my own relationships, my own channels to pitch songs. It is, I'm not closed off to the opportunity of signing something else, but it wouldn't be helpful to me now in the same kind of way where it was back then, where that was my only opportunity. Not many people wanted to write with me. I didn't have anything going on. So the fact that somebody believed in my talent enough to sign me proved to other writers and producers and artists, people that I wanted to work with, that, oh, hey, she's like somebody that somebody took a chance on. She must not be that bad. So that really, really helped me a lot. So, and the funny thing is, in my publishing deal, a lot of the work, I think a lot of people, when they sign them, they think, oh, my publisher's gonna like pitch my songs, they're gonna set up my sessions, they're gonna do everything, I'm just gonna show up and write. Sometimes, but most of the time, no. Most of the time, it just sort of enables you to have this level of professionalism, but you still have to do all those things yourself. And that's kind of what it ended up being for me. I ended up not really, I guess, falling out of love with country music. And I wanted to switch back to doing pop and K-pop specifically. And all of that I had to organize on my own because my publisher was only involved in country music, so they were like, well, if you want to do that, like, I guess we can kind of try to help you out, but we don't really know much about it. So I had to go and again reach out to people. I reached out to people online at that time that was already available, and just offered myself and my partner Elli up to write with them, to write for K-pop. And that's how we got our first K-pop cuts. And I basically, just used the fact that I was signed, the fact that I was professional, to get people interested in working with me, because I didn't really have anything else to offer. I didn't have a big list of cuts, a big list of successes, or anything like that. So, it really, really helped in that way. So another breakthrough moment I want to mention came when Elli and I already lived in LA for a year or so. This was my second time living in LA. I was already signed, already had some cuts, so things were going pretty well. We had a manager at the time too. Like, we had sessions set up for us, introductions made for us. And one of the friends that we had, he introduced us to Nikki and Gabby. For those of you guys don't know, they're like content creators on YouTube and now TikTok and all of these places. So, and at that time, I think a lot of producers and writers didn't really know anything about content creators. Like, YouTube, world of YouTube and world of music, they were very, very separate, which now content and music are like this in 2022. But at that time, a lot of producers and writers didn't work with YouTubers. And for us, it actually ended up being a really great thing for a couple of years, because from Nikki and Gabby, we met some other content creators like Nikita Dragon, Lexi Jade, Matt Stefanina, Mia Sayoko. We just ended up working with like a whole smorgasbord of creators. And there were many, many benefits to us doing that. Obviously, financially, it was really good. A lot of these creators have very large audiences, so the songs would always do well. There would be royalties, there would be an upfront payment that was very respectful. So that was really great. But there were also a lot of other really helpful elements to working with them. Working with people who don't focus primarily on music but focus on content creation, it kind of allowed us to like really drive those songs and those sessions, and really put kind of like the responsibility of how they sounded on us. So it really taught my partner and I to be in control of many elements of the songs and not just kind of, rely on our collaborators like we had done in the past. Also, it really allowed us to have a really comprehensive look at the world of content creation, which is information that's super relevant now and very helpful to a musician. We got to see how these like mega professional content creators run their empires. And there was a lot to learn from that. And I will always be really grateful for that opportunity because, it taught me how to do YouTube and TikTok and all of these types of things. So, and I would say that finally my latest, I guess, breakthrough has been, funny enough, leaving my publishing deal because the point of my career I'm at now, I already mentioned it, is that I have built some relationships to be able to play songs and pitch songs. I have sort of like a roster of artists that I work with, of songwriters that I work with. Like I said, I'm open to anything, but it's been great to be able to collaborate with publishers on a song by song basis as opposed to being signed to just one person, because I've had more cuts this way by collaborating with several people at once. So it's been a really great time, and it's been still less than a year for me. I left my pub deal last year. So, and like I said, super grateful for having had it and what it has done for me in the past, but it was definitely a time to try something fresh. So I'm really excited about where I'm at right now with all of that. All right, guys. So to wrap this up, I wanted to kind of touch on some of the most helpful and important things that I've learned throughout this whole 17 plus year process. So I think the number one thing that I learned is to put my art and my creativity first, right? Because there's so many aspects of the business, relationships and networking and all of these things, and people kind of think they have to chase their success in these external ways, which you do. You do. But the thing that really sells you to anybody as far as working with you is the quality of your work, right? And I already kind of mentioned that in the beginning of the video, like invest into your learning, into your craft. But I would even go a step further now and say, dig really deep into who you are as an artist, whether you're artist, singer, or just producer, songwriter, doesn't matter. You're still an artist. Definitely invest time not only into craft and skills, but also just understanding yourself, what really makes you tick as a creator, what you enjoy. And that's also going to shift and change. So this is a process that is going to keep repeating itself. It's not like you're going to be like, okay, well, I love R&B, I'm going to do everything just R&B, right? There will come a point where you're like, okay, I've just done 100 R&B songs, I'm sick of it. So, this constant process of questioning yourself and asking, am I happy with this right now? What would make me happier? What would make me creatively more fulfilled? That's going to take you far. And one kind of sidebar from that is, don't really chase trends. I've already been doing this for so long, almost 20 years, and so many trends have kind of come and gone, and I've seen them. I've even seen some circle back already, ones that were happening when I was, a teenager or early 20s. There's just so many trends musically that go on. You can go ahead and chase them, but the thing is, if it's happening right now, by the time you get your music out there, it's probably going to be already like stale and old news. So, you can be aware of trends for sure. Don't be completely unaware of anything that's going on. Do listen to what comes out, pay attention. But at the end of the day, you have to kind of pursue things and sounds and types of songs that you are really excited to create, because you can tell, and especially somebody who at this point, I'm a writer producer, but I A&R a little bit too. I help younger writers and producers, and I can just tell in a split second when something feels special or when it's just another song, right? And usually things feel special when there's that like seed of the person's heart in it. So it's really hard to do that if you're just chasing a trend and like doing something because you think it's going to make you successful. It doesn't allow that heart to come through. So on a totally different topic, another thing that I learned that's really important is to handle your business. Don't be the kind of artist and producer that is completely unaware of anything that goes on with their business, with their money, with their royalties. That is your living. If you want to do this professionally, that is how you're going to pay your rent and buy your food and support your family. So you definitely need to invest time into understanding the business. As boring as it is, I don't like it. I don't like doing taxes. Nobody likes that. But you definitely need to understand, like I said, even like how are royalties taxed? Are there any extra taxes where you live? For example, City of Los Angeles, you have to file a special paperwork by a certain time in the year, otherwise you get charged. But you won't get charged if you do it correctly and you make under $300,000 a year. There are a lot of things like that I really encourage you guys to learn. Even if you're not making a lot of money yet, it's still important to understand, how do I write things off? I just bought this plugin for my studio. How do I write it off for taxes? Do I need a separate business bank account? All of those things are things that you should start thinking about now, so when you make money, you already understand where it's all gonna go, how are you gonna pay taxes on it, all of those wonderful, super fun things. Knowing it's gonna make you feel a lot calmer. It's gonna make you feel a lot more, honestly, able to focus on the creativity, because when you're very unsure about all of these things, you're stressed, you're not writing a song, you're worrying about this stuff. So invest time into understanding the business aspects. Okay, and my final bit of advice. This is something I learned over time. I did not know this in the beginning. I was not this person. And this is really simple. Make friendships. Become friends with people in the industry, right? Everybody talks about networking. I feel like I've already mentioned this in the video or some videos before, but don't try to create these completely like transactional relationships, right? Like, oh, you give me this, I give you this, we write a song together, or I think you're friends with this famous person and I want to get to know you for that reason. Like, if you're in LA, you like know what I'm talking about. This is like, there's a lot of those vibes around here, but things have really shifted away from that, and they really are continuously shifting. I think a lot of people can see through that kind of like very, like I said, transactional mindset. And the reason it's so much better to actually like have friends that do what you do and like love them as friends and spend time with them as friends is because, well, A, it's great to have friends. Friends are their own reward. But B is, when an opportunity comes, your friend is going to call you first. I have friends that, like, if something comes in that I don't think I can do it, it's not my style, it's not for me, I can't do it, I'm too busy, I call my friends. I pass opportunities on to them, and everybody kind of does things that way. So just having these really good, genuine relationships can take you really, really far. And like I said, it also is just good to have friends because this industry can be really, like, there's a lot of disheartening moments. Like, let's say you lost a cut, you thought it was for sure coming out, and then they pulled it at last second. Those things can really hurt you. So it's great when you have friends around you that can support you through the dark times and through the good times. All right, guys, and that's pretty much it. This is kind of like my story about how I've become a professional writer and producer. I know I rambled a lot about a lot of things. So if you have any questions, if there's anything I had forgotten, just ask it down below. I'll definitely answer. And also keep in mind too, this is my story. Yours is going to go completely differently. You're starting out at a very different time. You're from a different place than me. Even if you are from the same place as me, like, you're going to have a whole different set of people around you, circumstances. Like, that's one of the things I see a lot. People comparing themselves to others. People even asking, I know a lot of you guys ask this because you want to kind of gauge your own progress against like what I did. And don't do that. Like, it's good to have the information, right? So like, how did this person do it? How did this person do it? But at the end of the day, it's you. You're going to have different skills, talents, abilities than I had. You're going to have a different set of like weaknesses, shortcomings than I did. So you have to just forge your own unique path and not try to recreate anything anybody else had done, because that never works and it feels really icky anyway when you try to do that. So don't do that. But that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. Like I said, ask questions if you have them. And yeah, I guess at this I'm gonna go. So I will see you guys next time, and have an amazing day. Bye for now.